All right, what's up, guys? VV back with another video. Today's video is going to be geared more towards newer players who are looking to get into One Piece, or I don't know, maybe just newer players who are into One Piece but they're just not sure what they want to play. Hopefully this can help out somebody, right? And if there are any veteran players just listening in because they want to hear a video on One Piece, then by all means, chime in the comment section below. I won't be upset one bit about that, especially if I miss something. Help me out, right? Well, okay, guys, let's get right into it. So this video is going to be, or this video is about what color you should go in One Piece, or what do the colors do in One Piece. So there's the title, right? What does each color do in One Piece TCG? So let's go ahead and get straight into it. We're going to start off with red. Okay. Red. So basically red is about... So the theme is Straw Hat Crew and Whitebeard Pirates. Red is geared a little more towards the aggressive decks, I guess, as the color might imply, right? A little bit, anger, rush, blitz, fast, speed, right? Whatever. Now, as far as the red decks, yes, they're more. They have the. I think they have the most amount of rush cards. That's like a part of their package, right? And then they also deal with a little bit of power manipulation, and they have a little bit of Dawn tricks they can do. Dawn being for any new players, Dawn is like it's the resource in this game, in the game of One Piece, and these Dawn cards are more than just resources. They can also be used to buff your characters. So red can kind of move that around to do tricks. So these are just three quick characters here. Some of the excuse me, some of the big name characters in the One Piece universe. Luffy, Ace, and Zoro, and all of them have rush. Now Ace has to be in a certain deck to have rush, but they all have it. So there's this idea of like you start to see the theme appearing here of having rush. Okay, and then now some of these did not come out well at first, guys. I'm sorry, I'm still kind of learning how to translate this perfectly over to to the slideshow, and then into YouTube. So bear with me, guys. So just know that the characters on the left here, the Otama and the Gordon, those cards have an ability to lower the cost of your opponent's characters. And these characters on the right buff your characters, right? Makino in the middle actually literally gives a buff to characters, and then Brook and Luffy in the top right over there, they can attach Dawn to characters to make them stronger. Okay, so that is good for getting board control. Like, I'll either make your character smaller or I'll make my character bigger. Okay, pretty straightforward. And when you adjust their power level, you can use abilities like this. You can use the jet pistol on the left here to KO. KO means to knock out, right? To remove, to banish, to destroy, whatever card game you're coming from. That's the idea, is you're getting rid of their character, right? Excuse me. Now, all colors have access to removal, but red's is more geared around power. Right, whether it's me lowering the cost of your character so I can destroy them easier in battle, or whether it's making my character bigger so I can, again, make it easier to destroy them in battle, or on cards like this that just flat out KO someone if their power's low enough, right? So the first one here, like I said, jet pistol, 6,000 power or less, you can KO them for the cost of 4. The cost is in the top left corner, by the way. You can just knock them out. Well, okay, what if they have 8,000 power? Okay, well, I'll just use this Otama over here or this Gordon and lower their power down, and now they're in range of my removal spell, right? Or my removal event is what they're called in this game. They're called events, these gold bordered cards. Okay, and some of the bigger name characters and leaders is what you see here. You got Shanks and Whitebeard, and then the leaders are on the right. Okay, for those, again, this video is geared towards newer players. So there are a few different cards in this game. I already talked about the Dawn cards. Those sit in their own separate deck, and you get a set amount each turn. So you never have to worry about getting land screwed, quote unquote, or, getting resource deprived or anything like that, or getting resource flooded because you have a set amount, okay, with 10 being the highest amount of Dawn you can have in play at one time. And look at these characters on the left, 9 and 9 in the top left corner. That's how much they cost. So that's obviously a very large character, right? And then characters, that's another card. And then leaders are these cards on the right. That's who represents you in the fight. Okay, so just trying to lay that out for anybody. And if you have any questions, if I say something too quickly or stutter or something, you can't understand what I'm saying, please, by all means, just, leave me a message in the comment section below and I'll answer it, or someone else might even beat me to it, but I'll do my best to answer as quickly as possible. Okay, and typically speaking, your leader will be, geared towards all the points I'm talking about. So like I was saying, red has the ability to do combat tricks, right? And increase power and do power manipulation. Well, guess what? Zoro, if you attach a Dawn to him, he gets 1,000 power from that resource. And now, as a result, for the rest of your turn, all of your characters get plus 1,000. Power. So that's like that's his hero. That's his leader's ability. Okay. And then Luffy at the bottom right, he can attach a Dawn to someone. So you see how he's moving around Dawn to do tricks. So, okay. Hopefully that was clear enough. So moving on to green. So the theme for this is Wano County, Heart Pirates, Kid Pirates, Supernovas. And one more thing I do want to stress is I wouldn't worry too much about these themes, because you can find Luffy in every color, right? Or look for whatever your favorite character is. You'll probably be able to find him across most colors. I guess what I'm trying to say is I would not base my my deck, whatever deck I build, around my favorite character. You absolutely can, but just know that what I'm talking about here with the Wano County, Heart Pirates, Kid Pirates, Supernovas theme, that is just what's come out in the first few sets of the game. Okay, and as the game gets older and older and moves on and on, you're going to be able to, there's going to be more and more options, I'm sure. And just for context, I don't know when anyone's going to be listening to this, whether it be in the, when it is in the future, they might be listening to this. At the time of me recording this, we are fresh into OP03. So as in 02 was before this and 01 was before that, 1 being the first set that was released. So again, at the time of me recording this, on July 25th, this is July 25th, 2023. This game is still relatively new, right? Especially over here in the West. I don't want to get too much into it, but the East, where the game is from, over in Japan, they are one set ahead of us. So we're at OP03, they're at OP04. So just get that out of the way. Okay, so green here, their focus is more mid-range and control elements. They have more of a mid-range and control element, as opposed to red being very blitzy, very rushing, right? They're trying, green is more trying to set up. How do they do that? They can tap and untap characters. They can tap enemy characters so that they can be attacked. So that's another thing I should mention real quick. If you are, I'm not going to do a full tutorial on the video, but let me just do a short version here. If a character is tapped, well, you can attack into them, right? And there is no, this isn't quite like Magic the Gathering. I don't know who might be listening to this, where in Magic you have your main phase 1, and then your attack phase, and then your main phase 2, and then end phase. No, in One Piece, it's really just one big main phase. So if you tap your character to attack, say you attack with your character, and in order to attack, just like in Magic, you tap your character. Okay, well, if you can somehow untap them, you can attack again, right? Theoretically, unless it's like an end of turn ability. So that's very strong. That's what green features. They have a lot of stuff like that. They have a smaller, type of mechanic in double attack and ramping and swapping characters. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. It's just like a minor side mechanic they have. So as you see on all three of these characters, this is what I was just talking about with the double attack. It's just this, there's not a ton of double attack characters. So, and by the way, what is double attack, right? Rush or blitz, I should have explained in more detail. In One Piece, you can't, let me go back to that real fast. These are rush characters in red. That means they can attack the turn they enter play. That would be like haste in Magic the Gathering, right? In One Piece, you can't attack the turn that you come into play unless you have rush. Excuse me. However, you can use abilities the turn you enter play. So that is a little different from Magic, right? At least in some regard. Okay, because some abilities in Magic you can't do if you have to tap your character, right? Well, in One Piece that's not the case. You can tap your character the turn they enter play, but they cannot attack the turn they enter play unless they have haste or rush. Excuse me. Now, double attack is another mechanic. This allows you to deal 2 damage. Dealing 2 damage is something I do have to explain real quick. In this game, you start off with however much life your leader gives you. So again, back to red, since we've already crossed over that, if you look at the leaders to the right, they have a little life circle in the bottom right of their card. So monocolor leaders have 5 life and dual color leaders have 4 life. There are a few exceptions to that rule. Edward Newgate is one of them. He has 6 life, and at the cost of his hero or his leader's ability says at the end of your turn, you're going to add a card from the top of your life deck or life area, excuse me, to your hand. Okay, you're forced to do that. There's a few cards that let you get around that, and once you're down to no life cards, then you just kind of maintain at 0 life. However, in this game, that's fine. You can be at 0 life. That's not an issue. You have however many life your hero starts with, or your leader starts with, and once you lose all of those life cards, then they have to hit you 1 more time, right? Now, real quick, those life cards, they don't just go away, by the way. If someone hits your leader and you take life, you draw that card. So it is like a resource, okay? Sorry, I do have to explain some of this, guys, because like I said, I don't know who all's new and whatnot, so I'll try to make a little bit better pace at this right now. It's good to get all the basic stuff out of the way now, so then we can, progress through the video at a slightly quicker pace. Okay, so green has a little bit of double attack. It's just, like I said, it's not like a main feature, but it's a little secondary feature they have. Now, this is more of their actual tricks here, where they can rest characters or stand characters or unrest them, right? So tap or untap, for those who are wondering, who are coming from other games, that's like the universal language, right? To tap the card is to turn it sideways. To untap the card, you stand it up, right? So this card on the left here, Yamato, on play, which means when you play the card, rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 6 or less. Remember, the cost is in the top left corner, okay? So this character can tap some pretty large characters, right? And when you tap them, you can attack into them to destroy them. Okay? Guy in the middle here, Trafalgar Law, on play. Set one of your Supernovas or Heart Pirate type rested characters with a cost of 5 or less as active. Okay, so if you attacked in with someone, well, you can play this guy as long as they're Supernova, Heart Pirates, and cost 5 or less, and you can stand them. You can set them as active, and now they can attack again, or you can just leave them there, right? Because now they're safe. They're not tapped. They can't be attacked normally. They'll have to use a card in hand to deal with it. Okay, just some extra utility there. On the far right here, we got Django. He has both effects, but you have to choose one. So on play, you choose one of the following. Do you want to set up to one of your leaders or characters as active, or do you want to rest one of your opponent's characters? Okay, let's keep moving. All right, so here's some of the swapping and what did I call it? Ramping, swapping. It's kind of the idea here. So these Monkey D. Luffy and Brook characters here, when you play them, they allow you to play a card without paying its mana cost or its dawn cost, its resource cost, right? Like in this case, Luffy on play up to 1 film or Straw Hat Crew type character card with a cost of 4 or less from your hand. Brook says the same thing, but it's a 3 or less. So you see how you could technically go Luffy into Brook into a 3 or less, right? So you see where that can ramp you, that can kind of cheat out cards into play, right? And then this on the far right, Trafalgar Law. This is a different law card. This one has on play, you may return one of your characters to your hand, any kind of character. It can be no matter what the cost is, but then you can play a card, one character card, with a cost of 3 or less from your hand. So you're returning one card to your hand, no matter what the cost is, but then you're playing a 3 or less down on the board. Really cool interactions, allows for a lot of combat tricks. Okay, and it leads into this part here. At the bottom right, you'll notice I have a red-green leader. There are dual-color leaders, like I hinted to earlier. They typically have 4 life, like you can see with this card. And as you can see, all the other monocolored leaders have 5 life. Okay, now I added Trafalgar Law to the green card leaders because honestly his effect is very green. Yes, now whenever it's a dual color, so let me get that out of the way. Whatever color your leader is, that is the only color cards that you can have in your deck. So Eustace Kid, Kinemon, and Kuro can only have green cards in their deck. Trafalgar Law can have green cards and red cards, and that's kind of the justification they use for dropping the leader's life down to 4, right? It's kind of like a penalty for having access to all those cards. Okay, and then on the left here, real quick, you got, Eustace Captain Kidd, 8-drop, and Kazuki Odin, 8-drop. Very cool art on that Odin. I really like that. And they have very powerful effects that are, associated with green. Okay. Blue. So this would be 7 Warlords of the Sea and East Blue theme. Mid-range to control style decks, very defensive. There's a lot of bouncing characters in blue. Bouncing meaning return a card to your hand or return a card to your deck. This blue also, blue is also the only deck that I'm aware of, unless I'm mistaken. It's the only deck in the game currently that offers an alternate win condition, right? And also in blue, you're going to see a lot of card draw and deck stacking. So let's go ahead and get straight into that. Okay, so right away, Don Quixote do Flamingo on the left here. He is a 3-cost, let me not go through all this stuff here, but he has the ability on play to look at 5 cards from the top of your deck and return them to the top or bottom of the deck in any order. So he's allowing you to stack your deck, okay, and that is very important for the leader ability that is associated with Doflamingo, okay. And then in the middle here, Sanji's Pilaf. This is your absolute traditional standard, classic draw 2, pay 3, draw 2 in a card game, right? This is your divination, right, in Magic. And then you got Boa Hancock on the right here. She has, Dawn ×1. Whenever she attacks or blocks, draw 1 card if there are 5 or less cards in your hand. So you see that drawing cards is a very big theme for blue in this game. And here's some bounce effects that I wanted to add here. This move on the far left here, or this event, right? It has that gold gold border, so it's an event. 3,000 Worlds. Place up to 1 character with a cost of 5 or less at the bottom of its owner's deck. Okay, so that places it at the bottom of its owner's deck, right? Now, then there are cards like this middle one here. This is the 7-cost Doflamingo. Return a cost 7 or lower character to its owner's hand. So notice 3,000 Worlds pushes it to the bottom of the deck. Doflamingo pushes it back to the owner's hand. And then on the far right here we have Zeph. He has return up to 1 character with a cost of 3 or less to the owner's hand. Then you may trash 2 cards from the top of your deck. Oh, that's interesting, right? Why would you want to trash cards from the top of your deck? And look at his Dawn ×1 ability. When this character deals damage to your opponent's life, you can trash 7 cards from the top of your deck. So this leads into the alternate win condition, and that's what this entire slide is dedicated to here. There is a character named, a leader named Nami in this game that has an additional rule. It says that when your deck reaches 0 cards, you win the match instead of losing it. Because typically, that would mean that you milled out and you lost the game because you went to 0 cards left in your deck. You can't draw anymore, you lose. Well, Nami actually changes that rule and says, no, I actually want to mill, and then I win, right? So very interesting. And I'm sorry about the resolution. I don't know why it's coming out like this. But the card in the top middle there is Kaya. She has draw 2 cards and trash 2 cards from your hand. Draw 2 cards and trash 2 cards from your hand. Okay, just everything is based around, lots of card draw and lots of trashing cards. Okay, very defensive though. These 2 bottom cards here increase your power to defend. They're counters. Okay, and then finally, this is the final slide for, it's just some of the leaders and some of the bigger characters. Got a big 10-cost Kaido on the far right there, just huge, right? 10 cost, 12,000 power. He's huge. And then Dracula Mihawk, he has an incredible on-play effect. Place 1 character with a cost of 7 or less at the bottom of the owner's deck. Even this card in the very front in the middle here, Crocodile, he has a leader ability that bounces characters, right? Like, it's just, everything is based around these ways to just push characters out of the way, right? Just play defensive, get a character out here, I'll deal with it later. Very cunning, subversive play style, right? I think that's the way to say it. And then Doflamingo, the leader here, he has attach 2 Dawn and pay 1. You reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's 7 Warlords of the Sea, you can play it with a cost of 4 or less. You can play it onto the field without paying its cost, rested. So just, ways to, when you're stacking your deck properly, you're going to be able to cheat things out, so to speak, to ramp a little bit. Okay, let's go to purple. So the theme for purple is 4 Emperors, Impel Down, Animal Kingdom, Pirates Film, Water 7, Gallery Comedy. It's kind of all over the place, and just bear with me when I get into this one. So they have a mid-rangey to control feel, and they have a lot of Dawn manipulation, resource manipulation, that allows them to control, to execute control and to ramp a little bit. But overall, they're very well-rounded and versatile. But because they're all over the place, I think a lot of people see them as kind of weaker right now. But I think that could change soon. I think it was really just a matter of Bandai or whoever makes the game, whoever the technical people are that make the game, whatever that company's called. They tried to do too much with purple. That's my personal opinion. So let's go and get into it here. So here's some of the Dawn ramp mechanics here. Ulti on the left here. If you play her, she costs 2, and then if you pay 1 when you play her, so 3 altogether, you can add a Dawn card from your Dawn deck and rest it. That's huge, right? You're ramping a Dawn. Same exact thing for this card in the middle here, Uta. Now this, you don't have to, this is just pay 5 on play, add up to 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck and rest it. Okay, so they have tricks like that. Polly in the back does something similar where you can add Dawn, and once it's at a certain amount, you can also KO a character. So just tons of Dawn interaction. And then this Onigashima here, activate main. You may rest this card, add 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck to your cost area in rest. So in rest it. Well, what are you going to do with all this Dawn, guys? Like that becomes your thought process, right? Because you can only reach 10 Dawn. So what happens once you reach 10 Dawn? What am I supposed to do now, right? Well, this is where the Dawn manipulation comes in. Card on the far left here, Shiki, has a trigger. Trigger means it came into play from your life area. So if you attack your opponent, or let's just say your opponent attacks you and you're playing a deck with Shiki in it, if they take your life, you would look at your life card first, and then you would say trigger or no trigger. You don't have to activate the trigger, by the way. You can just take it in hand, even if it has a trigger on it, and just say no trigger. But let's say you want to use the trigger. Well, this trigger says Dawn -1, which means you have to return a Dawn card to your resource deck, to your Dawn deck, and then you get to play this card without paying its cost. So that's actually pretty outstanding, right? Like it could be potentially very powerful. And remember, we have all these ways of getting our Dawn back, so we don't have to worry about going too far behind with it. Or at least that's the theory, right? That's the idea behind the deck, is lots of resource manipulation. Blast Breath, same thing. Counter, you have to return Dawn you pay 1 for the counter, and you return 1 Dawn to your hand, or to your Dawn deck, and then in this battle, your leader or character gains plus 4,000 power, making them very hard to take out, right? And then we have Magellan on the far right. This is a great example of Dawn manipulation and a Dawn attack, where this is like the equivalent of like land destruction in Magic the Gathering, where, okay, on play, Dawn -1, your opponent returns 1 Dawn to their Dawn cards, or to their Dawn deck, right? So in other words, when he comes into play, you return a Dawn card to your deck, to your Dawn deck, and they return a Dawn to their Dawn deck. So it's, lots of land manipulation. But then on opponent's turn, if they knock out Magellan, if they destroy him, well, now they lose 2 Dawn. They're set back 2 Dawn from that. So, a lot of powerful, there's a lot of potential there. Okay, and then last but not least here for the purples, or not last but not least, but one of the last things I wanted to talk about with them is because they have this Dawn interaction, they're kind of just all over the place. Like, okay, the top left card, Jack, I think that's his name, Jack. He has, whenever he attacks, you can return a Dawn card to the Dawn deck. Your opponent discards a card. They trash a card from their hand. And then this card in the middle here, Top Knot. Okay, main phase, you pay 2 and return 2 Dawn. return up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less to the bottom of its owner's deck. So you're bottom decking. Wait, that's like a blue mechanic, right? You know, what's going on here? And then Queen, you know, draw 2 cards and trash 1 card. You see what's going on. Like they're all over the place with this Returning Dawn stuff. It gives them access to kind of like every card pool's, you know, potential, I guess, because of how much this sets you back in the game. Why would you want to do this unless the ability is extremely powerful? And I think that's the logic. Like, okay, we'll give purple access to kind of, you know, the best of all worlds kind of thing, but the master of none, right? It's like a jack of all trades, master of none, right? Okay, King down there at the bottom left. If you return a Dawn card, you can KO someone, right? So you got bounce, you got KO, you got draw card, you got discard, all kinds of stuff going on. Okay, and then here's your just some leaders and some big characters. Kaido, of course, as a leader and a character. That makes sense. We got Douglas Bullet down there in the bottom left. He's just stacked. 8 cost 10k. He can get double attack. And all of these are Dawn minus type stuff, right? Like, look, I think, yeah, literally every one of these is a Dawn minus ability. Dawn, for Douglas Bullet, if you return some Dawn cards, you get double attack. For Iceberg at the top there, return a Dawn to play a card. Shanks, return Dawn to buff your characters. Magellan, return Dawn to, or whenever a Dawn card is returned, gain power. You know, Kaido, -7 Dawn, you get to take one of their life cards, you know. And then Kaido at the top right there, Dawn -6, KO all characters other than this one, just a full board wipe. Very powerful. So interesting stuff there. Okay, then we move on to black. This is your Navy, CP9, and Dressrosa theme characters, or themes. The black cards are definitely geared more towards a mid-range and control style, and I'm going to skip to the bottom point there with defensive and resilience. That is a big theme in black. Blacks, I would say that they're one of their best, how do I say this? So they go off cost manipulation, right? And that allows them to be very resilient and defensive as well. Or that's at least a subtype of what they're kind of known for. And you'll see that as we go through. So here's some cost reduction stuff. You got 4 cost Kuzan. On play, you draw a card with them. And then when you attack, -4 to their cost. So what does that mean to their cost? How much does Kuzan cost? He costs 4, right? He costs 4 resources to play. Well, if I were to attack with Kuzan against another enemy Kuzan, let's just say, well, now that enemy Kuzan, well, excuse me, let me word this a little differently. If I were to attack my opponent's leader and they have a 4-cost character on the board, I could reduce the cost of that character down to 0 with this ability, right? So that's the idea, and keep that in mind as we go through this, because it does have to do with how they interact. So real quick, Suru in the middle gives -2 to their cost, and Ice Age gives -5 to their cost. And real quick, if you look at the trigger on Ice Age, you'll start to see where this can come into play. Now, triggers only happen on your opponent's turn, but still, if you want to read that, it's KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less. So you kind of see where that's going, right? It's a little sneak peek. Here we go. So this is the way that I see it is you have these are your set, these cards set up for the next cards, right? Because notice what Sakazuki does. You may trash 1 card from your hand to KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less, right? So the idea is, oh, okay, if, say, they have a 9-cost character on their board, right? Well, Sakazuki can only hit 5 or less. Well, no big deal. Kuzan can drop him down to 4, or to 5, excuse me, from -4ing him, and now we can take him out with Sakazuki. You see how that can be potentially very powerful. And then with Smoker, this character cannot be KO'd by effects. Remember we were just talking about with resilience? This character, Smoker, can only be KO'd or knocked out or removed in battle. That's it. Now, there are ways to bottom deck him because that's not KOing him or like removing him, but you can't KO him by card effects. Then he has Dawn ×1. I'm sorry if you guys can't see this. I'm just going to read it for you. As long as there's a character that costs 0 in play, this character gains double attack. So you see how we actually do want to drop their cost down as low as possible, as much as possible, right? Because it can buff other characters. And that's a big theme in Black. Okay, and then like this card on the right here, Hina. This is a blocker card, so that this card can block if needed and protect your other characters. And on block, you can choose up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 6 or less. The chosen character cannot attack during this turn, right? So this is allowing you to shut down attacks based off of cost. So, okay. And this this next slide here is based on the idea of resilience. Borsalino, on your opponent's turn, so in other words, when you're defending, this character gains plus 1,000 power, so he's a 6,000 power, and cannot be KO'd by effects. Seems good, right? Yep, that's what we want our defender to be, you know. And Black is what really features this mechanic here. Next one in the middle, Sabo. On play, your characters cannot be KO'd by card effects until the start of your next turn. So again, he's giving your entire board resilience, right? Even the cards that might not have it. And it has the additional draw 2, trash 2. That's a very powerful card. And then on the far right, we have Fukuro, who is just a little 3 drop. That's a blocker, and he cannot be KO'd by effects. So he just holds down the fort, right? Very strong. Okay, and the final slide for Black here. This is just, these are the big cards you're going for, and some of the leaders. So Smoker in the middle there, Rob Lucci, Sakazuki. It shows baked into his card, Dawn ×1 on your turn. All your opponent's characters get -3 to their cost. So again, always to do with cost. Kuzan on the far right over there. On your turn, all of your opponent's characters get -5 to their cost. And on play, he KOs. He knocks out a character that costs 0. Well, his your turn ability comes into play first, so anything that's 5 or less, he can KO when he comes into play. But only one. He can only do one character when he comes into play. Very powerful, a lot of cost association, and yeah, it's all kind of based off of that. Like with the Smoker card at the top there in the middle. I know there's probably no way y'all can read that, but the idea is, so if you attach one Dawn, I think it's once per turn when attacking, I can't remember exactly, or activate main, give up to one of your opponent's characters -1 of their cost, and then if they have a character that is 0, he gets 1,000 power. So again, get him to 0, and there's there's potential benefits, right? And then last but not least, in the bottom middle there with Sakazuki, he has pay 3 and discard a card, and then you can KO any character that costs 0. So you see where that's going. Okay, let's move on to yellow. This is the last color. This is your Big Mom Pirates Land of Wano theme. Mid-range to control. This has a lot of attrition and life manipulation and trigger-heavy card pull. So remember what I said about triggers. Let me see. I'll actually go to the triggers first. Triggers are, you see at the bottom of each one of these cards. If your opponent attacks you and you don't defend it, or you don't defend it properly, and they actually deal damage to you, well, if you reveal one of the, if you get one of these cards, you can reveal it for its effect, right? The card on the far left, Paraspero. Okay, his trigger is you may discard 1 card from your hand to play this card. So you're trashing a card from your hand, and now you get a 5k on the board on their turn. It didn't cost you anything, right? Well, you had to discard a card. But this is a searcher, for those who don't know. So like, it has a lot of benefits. In the middle, this is just an event with a very... I'm not going to explain too much into it, but it's a very powerful effect you can get for free if you get it off the trigger. On the far right here, at the top right, you have Brûlé, Charlotte Brûlé. If you get her on the trigger, you just get to play her. She's a 3-cost blocker, just that could save you, right? That could win you a game. And then last but not least, down at the bottom, you got Charlotte Cracker. He has the ability to play him just like Paraspero, where you have to just trash a card, and now you get a guy on the board that has double attack, or potentially has double attack. Okay, so let's go back to here. So these are some cards here that allow you to look at your life, right, or interact with your life pool, which is very rare. It is only a yellow mechanic. Right. And if you notice, each color has its own manipulation it can deal with. Charlotte Katakuri, he can just look at your top. He can look at up to 1 life card from the top of you or your opponent's deck, and then keep it there or put it at the bottom of their deck. And then he gets rushed if you have less life cards than your opponent. Sanji in the middle here, you attach to Dawn, you draw a card, and you replace a card, right? This is a flat-out draw card effect, right? because you may add the top or bottom card of your life to your hand, add one card from the top of your deck to your life. So you draw a card from your life, and then you replace it immediately. Right, so that's very powerful. And then Charlotte Daifuku, Dawn times 1 when attacking. You may add one card from the top or bottom of your life area to your hand. Place up to one card from the top of your deck at the top of your life area. Same exact thing. Sorry, guys. I know that was long-winded. It's just the same thing as Sanji. But it costs 1 Dawn less. Okay. Let's see. All right, and this is some more stuff. Like, you know, green was tapping stuff down. Black is lowering the cost. Red is dealing with power. Well, and, you know, blue is bouncing stuff. Well, yellow interacts with life, right? That's their thing. Pound on the far left here, he has on K. He's a blocker and on KO. So when he goes to block and gets knocked out, add up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less to the top or bottom of their life cards, face up. So and then Charlotte Katakuri is the same thing for an 8 cost, but it's on play, not when KO, not when he's knocked out. He just gets to play that. Well, that's a big deal, right? Like you can bounce cards off the field to their opponent's life, and now they don't get that card or until they take that much life, right? So again, it's this life interaction, life manipulation. And then on the far right, you have Thunderbolt. You may trash one card from the top of your life area. So again, you're kind of, you know, you're not suiciding, but you're kind of hurting yourself. But, excuse me, as an effect, you're going to KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. So, you know, that's very, very powerful effect. Okay, and last but not least, we got the leaders and the big characters. Of course, Charlotte Linland's going to be the big character for yellow. We got Yamato as well. The leaders are Big Mom, Charlotte Katakuri, and Yamato. And that's really about it, guys. And all these guys have to deal with life manipulation and stuff, guys. So, yeah, hopefully that answered any questions y'all might have had. I think in summary, I'll just kind of summarize. Let me go back to the front screen. Okay. All right, red, and we are there. I'll say in summary this, you know, yellow is life manipulation, red is power manipulation, black is cost manipulation, purple is resource manipulation, green is orientation manipulation, as in like tap versus untapped, right, and doing tricks based off that. And then blue, I would say, is probably deck and hand manipulation, if I had to summarize. So, you know, hopefully that gives you kind of an idea. Generally speaking, red is your more aggro list. You know, that's like, because they feature the rush stuff. So they're trying to get in and be aggro. I would say the more control colors are probably blue, black, and maybe green. It's kind of hard to say. Green's a little bit more mid-rangey, but does have some control aspects to it. Yellow is very strong mid-range. You know, it just kind of curves very nicely while controlling life and while doing lots of life tricks. And then purple's just kind of all over the place. I hate to say it like that, but they just kind of are. That's a color I still can't really place my finger on. For the people who are more interested in like figuring things out, like if that's a big thing for you, you might want to try purple. You know, it might be something that gets you into the game, because it is resource manipulation. It does have ramp. I'm not saying it's bad. We have seen Kaido decks do very well, purple decks. Any of these colors can win, guys. And any of these, you can combo any of these colors together as well. At the time of me recording this, I believe there is a leader for every single color combination coming out in OP04. With red and yellow might be the one exception of where there's not a color combination for it. The very last color combination that I'm aware of is red and yellow, and that will come out in OP05, I believe. So that is a good 6 months away or so. But in OP04, which again at the time you're recording this is about 3 months away, 4 months away, I'm not exactly sure, every color combination will be available outside of red and yellow. So if there were 2 colors that you liked, like if you really liked the way that you know, red looked, and maybe you want to combo it with green, well, there's already a decent leader for that in Trafalgar Law. Right? If you like the way blue is with the deck manipulation and card draw, maybe you want to combo that with something like black, right? And that's coming out in OP03, or excuse me, OP04 with Rebecca. A decent purple combo is with green as well. That becomes a very controlling deck, purple and green, with in OP04 again with Doflamingo. There's going to be a new leader coming out called Doflamingo. Well, you know, there's already a Doflamingo, but it's going to be a purple-green version. And yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. You know, I'm trying to think if there's any color combinations I haven't mentioned. I do think that some colors are just very strong complementary colors. I think the most complementary colors are probably black and yellow. I think black has extremely high resilience with cards like this, and yellow just has the ability to just gain life. I mean, now I will say you do have to watch out for keywords. Like, for example, Charlotte Linlin here, if your leader has the Big Mom Pirates type, you can place up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top or bottom of your life area, then trash up to 1 card from the top of your opponent's life. Okay, so you understand what's going on there. Let me explain like this. If your leader's not Big Mom Pirates type, you can't use this card in the deck. So even if it was like a blue-yellow deck, well, you can't use this unless your leader is Big Mom Pirates. So just something to consider. Okay. But yeah, I think that about wraps it up, guys. Tell me what you think. Hopefully this helps someone who might be getting into the game and just they're not sure what to play. I like to make my guides kind of as, you know, in depth as possible, because, you know, I don't know, I don't like to I like to look into stuff, and I like when someone who's looked into something into great detail comes back and shares their experience with me, so that way I can know it a little bit better, right? Or hopefully that's the case. Anyway, I'm not going to ramble on for too much longer. Hopefully you guys liked the video. If you don't mind, please leave a like and a subscribe. And please don't be afraid to leave any comments in the comment section below, any questions or anything like that. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. And until next time, guys, peace.